So something that God has been teaching me lately is there's a couple things that are tied together, but He never calls us to any kingdom responsibility that we're capable of pulling off on our own. And if we don't have a keen awareness of our inadequacy for the assignment He gives us, we are not in touch with reality. And I will just, I think some of the essential qualities in what God looks for in the people that He uses to accomplish His purposes are weakness. They're low, despised, unlikely. And if you don't believe me, we can just look at the job descriptions of very important positions that God has had throughout history, throughout the course of history. The father and I guess mother of our faith, of His covenant people. If you read it like a job description and be like, must be married and infertile and elderly. If you look at Israel's greatest king, must be teenage shepherd, must be musician and poet, must not be education, must not have a theological education. If you look at the Messiah, must be a carpenter and be raised in an insignificant and despised town with no theological education. If you look at the apostles' chief theologian and missionary and apostle, must be the most zealous persecutor of Christians. So there's a theme throughout history that we can see of God using the weak and the low and the despised and the unlikely. And I just think of Moses, and I can relate to Moses's preference to wander through the quiet hills of Horeb rather than take up God's assignment. Just putting myself in His shoes, standing before God, revealing Himself through the burning bush, charging Moses to free the slaves from Pharaoh. If you think about that, that's a large task. The Pharaoh's entire slave labor force, I would also feel unqualified for that. So Moses' response, Lord, please send someone else. There must be someone more qualified. And just, I know I have felt that way in marriage. Lord, was this a mistake? Like, there must be someone more qualified to have led my spouse. Lord, there must be someone more qualified to fulfill this job description. And if, say, the Lord calls you to start a business, Lord, there must be someone more qualified to do this than I am. And I would say that's a fearful response from someone, but that's not only someone who feels, but knows he or she is too weak and to do it on their own. And I would say that's an accurate assessment, to know you're unable to do it, and you're too weak. But I think Paul, referring to Paul in Colossians, Paul says, therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest on me for the sake of Christ. Then I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And Jesus says in Acts 9:16, I will show him, referring to Saul, I will show him how much he must suffer for the sake of my name. And I don't believe that Jesus is referring to just the suffering and persecution. I believe that there is a right suffering, and I use the word suffering in the sense of sometimes it feels like suffering knowing our you can think of it as the stripping of pride. And if you replace that the suffering with the stripping of pride, I will show him how much his pride must be stripped for the sake of my name. Think about Paul or Saul persecuting Christians. That I believe that came out of a place of pride. And to be a follower of Jesus and to be a follower of the way, the truth, and the life, we must know our rightful place, and that He is God and we are not, and that we have weaknesses and He does not. And knowing that is a joy. It is our joy to profess our weaknesses, whatever they may be, and it is not our shame. I have ministry and family leadership failures on my resume, largely through my misplaced confidence in my own wisdom and capacities. And I have realized that there is joy in acknowledging my weaknesses before my wife, before my leadership, before God, knowing that I truly can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.